the NBA is supporting and implementing a form of vaccine segregation, it seems. So over the past few months, I believe the NBA league is in season at the moment. So they have began to implement measures separating the vaccinated from the unvaccinated. So this article that we've got here, sounds a bit sketchy. So
Okay.
it is. So this article here says that the league will not require players to receive their full COVID-19 vaccinations for the 2021 to 22 season. However, the NBA will have separate protocols for vaccinated and unvaccinated players in an effort to encourage individuals to receive their vaccination shots. Fully vaccinated players will avoid regular testing and can sit together in the locker room at team meals and during travel. They also don't have to quarantine when deemed a close contact unless they begin to show symptoms for COVID-19. Unvaccinated players, on the other hand, will be required to undergo testing on all days involving practice or travel, and they could be tested multiple times on game days. Those without vaccines must maintain social distance and quarantine if they come in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19. And while the WNBA, I believe that's the Women's Association, announced in June 2021 that 99% of players were vaccinated against COVID-19, the NBA has had some recent public pushback from several stars, including Kyrie Irving, Andrew Wiggins, and Bradley Beal. So, yeah, they are basically just going, if you're not vaccinated, don't sit with us. You don't get to sit on the cool table. They can't, by the sounds of it. It doesn't mention it specifically there, but the fact that it mentions that they can sit together in the locker room, team meals, and during travel, the fact that it's specifying that for vaccinated players implies to me that the unvaccinated players will not get to enjoy those privileges.
Which is all based on the idea that if you're vaccinated, you can't spread it. And
which is demonstrably and empirically untrue.
As every health agency will agree, that's not the case.
Yes.
Because the data from Gibraltar, Israel, or the UK proves that. And
yes.
The Americans also agree.
And it's another example of them saying we need to protect the vaccinated from the unvaccinated, which is a little bit confusing to anybody.
Riddle me that.
Yes, exactly. And it's also...
Did they say what a percentage was for the male players who didn't take it?
I
only saw the 99 for
yeah,
women's.
I couldn't find the information on that. I assume it's something similarly high, but there are a few pushing back. So this article is from a few weeks ago. So I believe that since then, the player mentioned that Andrew Wiggins, I believe, has gotten vaccinated, and it appears to have been because of pressure and pushback from the league so that he could participate in games. But that's just an example of what they're actually doing. They're saying, you don't need to be vaccinated.
But you're going to make life hell until you do.
Yes, similarly to all of the vaccine mandates in cities like New York and places like that.
In France.
Yeah, in France, exactly. And so it carries on. However, Kyrie Irving had to participate in the Nets Media Day. I believe he plays, I don't know the name of the team that he plays for, it just says the Nets Media Day at Barclays Center via Zoom because of New York City's COVID-19 protocols. The city's mayor, Bill de Blasio, has issued an executive order that requires New York resident athletes that practice or play indoors to show proof of at least one vaccine shot. So even though the league as a whole is saying, well, you don't need it, the certain cities that they're playing in are basically just going, no. And it carries on. If Irving is not vaccinated by the Nets' season start, he could potentially miss Brooklyn's 41 home games, and the team does not have to pay him for missing those games due to his vaccination status. According to Yahoo senior NBA writer Vincent Goodwill, league sources think that Irving will receive the vaccine, citing influence from teammate and close friend Kevin Durant. So, pressure, basically. Pressure to carry on with it, and he can't play games in his own home city, by the sounds of it as well, due to the mandates. But one of the most notable stars that I've found who is pushing back against it is this man, Jonathan Isaac. We won't play the clip with audio, but just to go over some of the things that he says in here. This was done as part of a press conference. He stated that the reason that he hasn't got the vaccine is because of the fact that he's already had COVID, which, as we've mentioned, basically is much better, generally speaking, as a form of immunization than the vaccination.
Internationally, basically, everyone agrees at this point that having the virus gives you more protection than the double vaccine.
Well, yeah, it gives you a more comprehensive exposure to everything involved in the virus.
Lower
itself.
chance of dying from getting it a second time.
Yeah. He also makes a note that the understanding of COVID and immunity towards it is still evolving, which is true. He states that he knows that the vaccine will make potential future infections that have milder symptoms, but he doesn't want to open himself up to the rare admittedly rare chances of having an adverse reaction to the vaccine, which is fair because they do happen. Just ask Nicki Minaj's cousin's boyfriend. And he also points out that you can still get and spread COVID with the vaccination, and says that being berated for your opinion doesn't exactly make you eager to get vaccinated. Being told that you're a bad person and that you're endangering the lives of, think of your grandparents, though, is not exactly the greatest incentive, and being bullied into it is not the best incentive. If you skip over again, he put out this tweet for it, which is, "We can fight COVID and defend freedom simultaneously," which is
true.
Yes, exactly.
Demonstrably true.
And it's a pretty American sort of stance on this whole thing, standing up for freedom.
Yeah, you would have thought it'd be more global freedom flu going on, but no, it's very centralized in America, which is why it's at least good to see that it survives there.
Yes, exactly. And I've looked into this, and it seems that this man, Jonathan Isaac himself, was actually last year during the leagues, during the season that they were doing last year, the only member of his team, Orlando Magic, to not take the knee for the national anthem and not wear a Black Lives Matter shirt. So he seems to be, relatively speaking, an independent thinker in the NBA. And if you carry on, he's been on Fox News talking about the blatant miscarriage of vaccine information, and he's been asking some questions that people don't like. People don't like asking questions. So he stated in here, the polarization by the media that has caused such distrust. If this thing is about protecting people and protecting the public health, why does CNN have to lie about Joe Rogan? Or why does Rolling Stone have to willfully misrepresent my position on vaccine or COVID? Which is a pretty common thing.
It's a great question.
It is a great question.
Why do they have to do it?
Yeah, and why does CNN have to continually lie and then double down on lies about Joe Rogan? Makes you wonder. And speaking of Rolling Stone, Jonathan Isaac is not actually the only person that Rolling Stone has been trying to smear in regards to certain beliefs about COVID-19 and the vaccinations, or not even beliefs, opinions and statements.
Sorry, what is this graphic here?
I know, it does look a little bit fear-mongery, doesn't it?
Oh, okay, I thought it was going to be a V. Jesus, okay. I was getting vibes of 1984 there.
No, the person behind that picture is Eric Clapton. I know you're not hugely into music. I don't think you've heard of Eric Clapton, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm bad with music. Everyone knows this. I mean,
he's written. I mean, you could argue he's written some propaganda music recently. He's written some anti-lockdown music recently. So,
okay,
yeah. So Rolling Stone has been questioning and smearing Eric Clapton on his statements that he's made recently regarding the vaccinations. And as you can see there, the headline, Eric Clapton isn't just spouting vaccine nonsense, he's bankrolling it, because there is a musical association that's formed since last year called Jam for Freedom, who have been holding charity concerts and other such things in protest of lockdown mandates, vaccination mandates, and other such things. And I believe Eric Clapton has himself put some money into those and gotten in touch and performed for them, which is his right to do.
That's misinformation as well. I assume they're just arguing against lockdowns and mandates, which is fine.
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that.
It should be their right to express themselves in that way, but that's not what the mainstream are enjoying. So this article states that in recent months, Clapton has himself become a leading vaccine skeptic, part of a community that Dr. Anthony Fauci, because of course we have to take his word as gospel, has said is part of the problem, because you're allowing yourself to be a vehicle for a virus to be spreading to someone else. And while never explicitly condemning the lockdown, he said live music might never recover, and this is Eric Clapton now, and joined Van Morrison for 3 songs that amount to lockdown protest anthems. By way of a friend's social media account, he's also detailed what he called his disastrous experience after receiving 2 AstraZeneca shots, which he stated propaganda said the vaccine was safe for everybody. So this the incident that I believe happened with that was earlier on this year, come January, February. He did actually have the first shot of the vaccine, and he had a terrible response to it. I believe he's had some neurological problems in the past that have caused issue with his ability to move his hands and stuff, which as a guitarist is pretty important for him. And then he recovered, and against what he said was his better judgment, went for his second one. Hardly what you could describe as anti-vaxxer behavior for instance. And then the same thing happened. He had a terrible response to it, and I believe he's recovered now, but he was at the time in a position where he was worried that he could never play guitar again. And he's pretty old, but if you've been playing an instrument as passionately and for as long as he has, that would be a pretty damning end result for the end of your life, just to be left without the use of your hands and doing the thing that you love. So yeah, and it carries on here. It brings up some pretty bad stuff that's happened in Eric Clapton's past for some reason, because that's entirely related to his beliefs on vaccinations.
Smear merchant's going to smear merchant.
Exactly, smear merchant's going to smear. So it says, in the summer of 76, Dave Wakeling thought he knew Clapton too. Wakeling, who'd gone on to found the English Beat, one of the UK's pioneering ska bands, went to see Eric Clapton at the Eric Clapton's band Blind Faith in Hyde Park. But when he saw Clapton at the Odeon Theatre in Birmingham in August 1976, Wakeling was gobsmacked. A clearly inebriated Clapton, who, unlike most of his rock brethren, hadn't weighed in on topics like the Vietnam War, began grousing about immigration. The concert was neither filmed nor recorded, but based on published accounts at the time and Wakeling's recollection, Clapton began making vile, racist comments from the stage. In remarks he's never denied, he talked about how the influx of immigrants in the UK would result in the country being a colony within 10 years.
That's a racist remark, is it?
Apparently so.
Saying that if you bring in thousands and thousands upon thousands of people who are not from X land into an area, it becomes colonized. What happened to the Native Americans, my friends? Mr. Rolling Stones.
Well, they don't like to point out their own contradictions.
Or is that's also racist commentary, is it?
Maybe.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, he also went on an extended jag about how foreigners should leave Great Britain, get the wogs out, get the coons out, is what he is reported to have said. And if in that speech,
that you could say as a racist statement.
If in that speech he did say it and did say other racist things, there are many variations on this speech that I've seen over the years because of the fact it wasn't recorded, because of the fact it was mainly told secondhand by people who were there.
So the whole thing's hearsay.
Yeah, the whole thing is hearsay. It seems that he did make some kind of speech where he was saying about how he supported Enoch Powell and supported the Rivers of Blood speech,
right,
and other such things like that, which is how you can see he ended up with the being a colony in 10 years remarks. So if he did say racist stuff, disavow. But it's very unclear as to what he exactly said. And once again, this is purely a case of smear merchantry, where the only reason that they have brought this up is to say, well, he says this now, look at what he said in the past. Ooh.
Which is not relevant to what he's saying now about vaccines.
Exactly.
I mean, immigration policy has nothing to do with vaccines.
Exactly. But they bring it up anyway. So, yeah, that's what they've been saying about Eric Clapton. And once again, the Rolling Stone is a pretty rubbish publication nowadays anyway.
I mean, they're the guys who literally ran the mattress girl story. Do you remember that?
What was the mattress girl story?
There was a girl walking around with a mattress on campus claiming that she was gang raped. And then like a bunch of guys ended up losing their position at the university because of it. And it turned out it was complete bull.
Well, of course.
So the literal fake news.
Yeah, fake news people. But yeah, so along the lines of the segregation among vaccinations, the Seattle Police and Fire Departments have recently fired almost 400 people for vaccine non-compliance. So in this article from Fox News, the Seattle Police Department officers and firefighters who have been fired for not complying with the city's COVID-19 vaccine mandate marched up the steps of City Hall to turn in their boots in a grand gesture of, well, go F yourselves, if this is what you're going to do to us. Footage taken from the Seattle City Hall and posted to social media shows dozens of people walking up the steps with boots in their hands, preparing to turn them in after they were let go for not complying with the city's COVID-19 vaccine mandate. The scene comes after the city's deadline for the first responders to receive the vaccine expired at midnight on Tuesday. I think this was this Tuesday, leaving many in the department without jobs after failing to comply. And the city has made the statement after having done this that it won't affect response times, we swear. And it's actually taken about
just like Southwest Airlines, it won't affect the flights, we swear.
Yes.
Well,
and after last year, after all the riots, and after wasn't Chaz in Seattle, do they really want to be getting rid of almost 10% of their police force?
I mean, honestly, you should probably just put some walls up around Seattle and just let it go.
Yeah.
At this point,
just go full Escape from New York
from
there.
what I've heard.
Yeah, so 91% of the police and 93% of the firefighters are jabbed and will retain their positions, but those are still some pretty hefty losses from what I can see. And once again, whether it'll affect response times, I guess we'll just have to see. And I think I can put a pretty good guess as to whether it will or not. And there is some silver lining to this, obviously not in terms of their job prospects, just in terms of the spirit of the people who were fired. They seem to be still dedicated to the public, because what these people did, the firefighters and the police officers, they went out, and you can see here, they went out and decided to feed the homeless, which is very nice of them.
Damn anti-vaxxers.
I know, exactly. Trying to destroy our society as we know it.
Basically trying to kill us all.
Yeah, so vaccine mandates are still massively affecting people. They're still massively negatively affecting people in all sorts of areas where you might not want, and it's causing segregation
amongst the NBA.
Yeah, amongst the NBA. So yeah, not much more to say on that.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full thing at 1 p.m. every weekday at lotuseaters.com, or you can sign up to get access to all the premium content we have on the site.
Yeah, we've got loads of really good stuff. Every week we have a Contemplations and Epochs episode that goes up, and in the Contemplations we talk about just interesting things, and the Epochs episodes are probably my favourite because I love talking about history. This latest one is we're doing a bit of a series on the 100 Years' War and why England kept winning. And we've not finished it yet, and you're going to really enjoy the end of that one. But we've also got other excellent episodes that we do, like the book club. The most recent one was Shooting an Elephant by George Orwell. This was about his time in Burma as a colonial officer, and when he was tasked with the shooting of a rampaging elephant. And it's really, really interesting what the circumstance of the thing was. But we also have lots of other content, such as premium articles, which have audio tracks on them for our silver and gold subscribers. And we do premium podcasts about things that we don't really feel that we can put on YouTube or have done a particularly large amount of research into. And so it's worth keeping them slightly more private. And we also do lots of very interesting interviews, such as this one with comedian Steve Hughes, which was really fascinating because I didn't expect him to be a philosopher. But anyway.
Yeah. Also, the last thing to mention is the live event content we have. So we occasionally, when we get around to it, doing our live events, and the videos from them are on the website as premium, of course, because people came to see and paid. So go and check that out. This is on the worst of critical race theory.
Yes.
And I do mean the worst.
It's unconscionable.
Yeah. So if you'd like access to all that premium content, go to lotuseaters.com and subscribe. Thank you and goodbye.